A very good morning to you from Seoul. You're watching Arirang TV's live coverage of the South Korean government's strategy meeting on the Korean New Deal. The $133 billion initiative aims to help the country recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, which has triggered the worst global recession since the Great Depression. Spearheaded by President Moon Jae-in, the New Deal initiative for Korea aims to meet the country's future needs as well as create jobs that embrace two main pillars, digital and green industries. In just a few moments, the government will start the meeting, which will be chaired by President Moon Jae-in. The main agenda for Thursday is expected to be the funding for the initiative, which will bring in investment from both the public and private sectors to support the New Deal projects in going forward. The session will bring together top officials from Cheongwade and government ministries, along with lawmakers from the ruling Democratic Party and top officials from major public and private financial groups. Now, due to social distancing, most of the participants will join via video conference. Let's go into the room where they will hold this meeting. We're just going to bring that to you in a moment. There we go. And
Rest. Please be seated. First, Mr. President will deliver his address. Thank you very much for joining us today, and also we are joined by many people via online, and it is very great to see you all. Amid the grave COVID-19 situation, the government and the entire financial sector are mustering our wisdom to overcome the economic crisis. And taking a step further, we have gathered here today to open a new future for the Republic of Korea under the name of the Korean New Deal. Today, we are joined by some 40 people representing the country's financial sector, both offline and online. And 15 financial companies that account for over half of our entire financial assets have also attended. And in particular, we have 10 representatives from financial holding companies have also in participation today. And the Financial Association is also joining us via online. And as for the party, we also have Mr. Lee Na-gyun, who is the new leader of the party, as well as the floor leader Kim Tae-yeon joining us today despite their busy schedules. And we also are joined by the head of the policy committee, as well as many other people who are responsible for the party's K-New Deal committee via online. Thank you very much. The financial sector has always played a great role for the country when it was faced with severe challenges. Facing a difficult challenge of the COVID-19 outbreak, it is once again standing at the forefront to execute the Livelihood Finance Stability Program decided together with the government, which is worth over 175 trillion Korean won. Thanks to their support, we were able to maintain our economy with emergency measures such as Business Stability Fund for small business owners, as well as Disaster Relief Fund rollout to all citizens. And last week, they also decided to extend the grace period for interest payment and loan maturity extension for small business owners and SMEs. And this has been extended by additional 6 months until the late March of next year. The country's financial sector has also played a significant role in recovering the private companies and securing jobs for the public. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my deepest appreciation for your contribution.
대한민국의 새로운 미래를 위한
The government
국가
is now
전략으로
carrying out the Korean New Deal as a new national strategy for the future of the Republic of
한국판
Korea.
뉴딜의 성공은
It can only be
민간의 투자가
successful when we
활성화되고
facilitate
국민이
private investment
역동적으로
and when
참여할
citizens
때
are proactively
가능합니다.
participating in
이를
these
위해서는
projects.
금융의
To this end, we are
적극적
in need of
뒷받침이
active support
필요합니다.
from the financial sector.
한국판 뉴딜의
And this is
첫
why
번째
we have hosted
전략회의를
the first
특별히
strategy meeting on the Korean New Deal
함께하게
with the
된
presence of the
이유입니다.
representatives of the financial
한국판
sector.
뉴딜은
The Korean New Deal will usher in a new future for the country's economy through the New Deal Fund and New Deal financing.
국민과 함께
With the three
재정,
pillars of financing
정책금융,
together with the
민간금융,
citizens, policy financing and private financing, we aimed to make the Korean New Deal successful. Through the Citizen Participatory New Deal Fund and policy financing and private financing, we believe that it will be the largest investment for a single project.
국민 참여형
The Citizen Participatory New Deal Fund is a policy-type New Deal fund which will facilitate 20 trillion Korean won to be invested in major areas of the Korean New Deal. The infrastructure fund will be nurtured to be invested in New Deal social infrastructures. And we will utilize the sharing of risks of losses and taxation benefits to enable stable profits for the citizens. Moreover, the government will also provide investment conditions necessary to enable the private sector to devise New Deal funds with autonomy. We will develop the New Deal index and come up with products that can be invested in these indexes in the near future. And if the citizens participate in the New Deal fund, we believe that you will enjoy the rewards and achievements together. It will enable individual profits, of course, but also it will enable an opportunity for the public to directly invest in the future of the Republic of Korea and its social values. Above all, policy financing and private financing are now situated at the center of the success of the Korean New Deal. During the next 5 years, we will also, in the policy financing sector, we will be injecting 100 trillion won and 70 trillion won in the private financing in the major projects of New Deal and companies. And the government will play the role of a prime water and facilitate active contribution from the policy financing sector, and the private cooperation will be added to provide the necessary fiscal foundation for the Korean New Deal. And also excessive liquidity of the real economy will be shifted from non-productive areas like real estate to productive areas, and we believe that this is very significant. And the government and the financial sector has mustered its strength, and we hope that this could bring great hopes for the economy and the citizens. And the government will also exert our full efforts to carry out the system improvement and necessary regulation innovation needed to facilitate a Korean New Deal. We believe that the regulation innovation is very important, and this is why the government and the ruling party met with the business sector last month and established a new TF team for the legislation and system innovation for the New Deal project. We will be providing the innovations for the areas as well going forward. And as for the New Deal projects and also all of the regulations that hinder these projects will be also devised going forward. And we believe that the future is only available for those who are fully prepared. And it is now a chance and time for us to muster our strength and energy to overcome the crisis that we face at hand and to also prepare a new future for the Republic of Korea. Today, the government and the financial sector are taking a big step forward towards the future, and we hope the citizens will take part in our efforts. Thank you very much.
뉴딜 펀드와 뉴딜 금융.
The President has touched upon the meaning and significance of the New Deal Fund and New Deal financing. Thank you very much. And in line with the quarantine measures, our meeting today will be in the form of a hybrid, adopting both offline and online connections. Let me briefly introduce those who are joining us on non-face-to-face. From the government, we have ministers of Science and ICT, Trade, Industry and Energy, Environment, Employment and Labor, and SMEs and Startups. And from the Democratic Party, we have the Chairman Han Jong-ae of the Policy Committee, Chairman Lee Kwang-jae of the Digital New Deal Committee, Chairman Kim Sung-hwan of the Green New Deal Committee, and Chairman Chung Sung-ho of the Budget Screening Committee, and so forth. And from the finance sector, we have Chairman Kim Tae-young of the Korea Federation of Banks, as well as chiefs of the Korea Financial Investment Association, Korea Life Insurance Association, General Insurance Association Korea, Credit Finance Association, Korea Federation of Savings Banks, as well as related staff members from financial companies. And as for the Hana Asset Company, we were expecting their presence today offline. However, they have switched to online due to the coronavirus quarantine measures. And now let us commence the meeting in full-fledged. First and foremost, we have Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, who will be making a presentation on ways to build a People Participatory Korean New Deal Fund. Now let me begin my explanation on the ways to develop Citizen Participatory Korean New Deal Fund. And here are some background why we are carrying out this project. In July, we have announced our comprehensive plans worth 160 trillion Korean won. And in order to provide active cooperation and support for this, we have three backgrounds for our pillars. And we will be supporting the Korean New Deal driving engine and absorb and utilize abundant market liquidity and also induce public participation to share these investments and the outcome. And let us now look at how our fund looks like right now. We have three schemes. So first is like the policy fund, and second is the infrastructure fund, which is governed by the Private Investment Act. And currently there are 570 funds in operation, and there is also like examples of the NH Victory Korea Fund, and which is run by private on a voluntary level. So these are categorized as theme funds. And the Korean New Deal Fund that is designed by the government will also have similar three pillars. So first we will have the policy type New Deal Fund. And second, we will provide tax support, and this will be done so through the New Deal Infrastructure Fund. They will be nurtured going forward. And last but not least, we will explore and suggest profitable quality projects which will be discovered by the private sector, and they will be categorized as private New Deal funds. And this is an image of the areas that I have gone through so far. So first, it is very important that the government, the financial sector, and the public will share their burdens. And also, we will facilitate both direct and indirect investment. Moreover, we will have the facilitation of a public offering scheme so that anyone can participate freely. So among these, we will go through the policy type New Deal Fund. During the next 5 years, we will devise 20 trillion Korean won in making the policy New Deal Fund. And 3 trillion will be coming out from the government, and the financial sector will carry out 4 trillion won, while the 13 trillion will be carried out by the private sector. And we believe that most of these government budgets have been already allocated for the next year's budget. And the posterior investment will be carried out by the government as well as the policy sectors, and we will shoulder the burden of investment risks. And we will also facilitate the public offerings, and in order to facilitate the citizens' participation, we will also have 1 trillion worth of citizen participatory funds. funds. And next, the New Deal Infrastructure Fund, we will have the subject under great taxation benefits, and we will provide 9% of low rate of separation taxes for these people and companies, and we will also be giving these to companies and funds that are qualified for such areas. And they are subject to green and digital new deals. However, they also have some limitations and restrictions. We will also alleviate and also innovate related schemes and systems and legislations to enable the retirement pension to be utilized as well. And next, we will also facilitate a private New Deal fund. It will enable the private sector to voluntarily invest in these areas with high quality New Deal projects. And it is very important that we devise these quality New Deal projects, and the government will proactively discover these high quality New Deal projects going forward. And in this area, we will also open our ears to these on-site criticisms as well as feedback, and we will also utilize the offshore wind power generation units, which will be a major example of the New Deal, a private New Deal fund. And here are some expected effects. We will gain our driving force, and we will share the achievements with the public, and it will help us to overcome the COVID-19 crisis and to provide a great momentum for economic recovery. And next, here are some of the plans for our execution. During this year, we will also carry out a revision to necessary legislation and taxation acts, and we will also provide our products going forward, and we will also discover a high-quality New Deal projects. We will facilitate this going forward, and this is how a traditional Korean pot looks like. And we say that there are three stable pillars, and therefore we will have also three stable pillars for the Korean New Deal by the government, citizens, and the private sector. Thank you very much.
예, 부총리님 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for your intensive presentation. And next, we will also listen to the presentations by the financial sector. Presentations for this session will be delivered through online video. Please face the screen in front of you. First of all, the overall management of the policy-type New Deal Fund that has been introduced by the Deputy Prime Minister will be carried out. So let me introduce you. I am Chief Investment Officer Seo Jong-gun of K-Growth. As the Deputy Prime Minister mentioned, the Policy New Deal Fund will be going over by myself. The Korea, as the New Deal Fund, the Korean New Deal Fund, it will be leading a new future for the Republic of Korea, and we will take this opportunity to muster much more financing so that we can ease the opportunity for the individual citizens to participate in the financing sector and investment. The size of the New Deal Fund is 20 trillion Korean won. The way that we are devising is a new path that has never been taken, and this also will call for many challenges. However, there are many risk-avoiding factors in the private sector. Therefore, the 7 trillion Korean won given by the policy financing will be working as a prime water. And how will we design these New Deal funds, and how we will be designing this, we will also explain this through the example of the Mobility Fund. As you can see on the screen, we have 80 billion Korean won for the policy financing, And we also have 120 Korean won for the financial sector and private sector, and this will be invested in the mobility funds going forward. So for instance, if we are developing the electric car and the hydrogen cars, we need to invest in the battery packs as well, and the New Deal Fund will utilize this financing to be utilized in the distribution of the battery packs going forward. And there are also strategic funds that will be necessary going forward. So for instance, on a nationwide level, the government needs to nurture some areas of expertise. And also as for the infrastructure that requires a large amount of funding, we need to carry out immediate funding.
그렇다면 투자 위험은 어떨까요?
We're going to have to cut the meeting short there as we have a live briefing on the coronavirus coming up soon. But that was a live coverage of the government's first ever strategy meeting on the Korean New Deal, chaired by President Moon Jae-in. Thank you for tuning in, and we will be returning with our regular newscast at midday Korea time with more updates, of course, on this meeting that you just saw. Bye for now.